why did I do this? I did it because impatience. And the second thing was gratitude. And as I started to meet these young people and many others, I became increasingly grateful. I've always been one of the ones that was allowed in because I can play the game. I was extremely good at school. If I didn't come top of the class, I would insist that the teachers reread all the papers because there was obviously some mistake. So I found it quite easy to get onto the inside. I've always been quite good at words and numbers. In fact, I adore numbers. I've been very good at taking exams. The only thing I've really had to change about myself was my Yorkshire accent. I'm sorry, bruv. I lost it. I lost it early on. I was made very aware of how lucky I was on a trip to Malawi in February when I was working with some young people in management. I was giving them some training and coaching. And Tamala, one of my students, came in one morning, and I noticed on Tamala's collarbones, just above her clothes, there were 2 tear-shaped, pale patches of skin. And I couldn't help but ask, because I knew they hadn't been there the day before. So I said, Tamala, what's happened to your skin? And she said, oh, well, I was bleaching my face last night, and I've spilt some of the bleach on my chest. This is apparently quite normal. I have never had to think about changing the color of my skin. I haven't had to think about changing the way I think. I haven't had a teacher say to me, you will improve if you do it more like us. So I'm very grateful for all that. Another thing I had to change, apart from the accent, by the way, was I was always the person who cried in meetings, and I had to stop that because, you know, I was on the board of a company and board directors don't cry. So I did try to stop that. I was once told also, when I was on the board of an advertising agency, that I spent too much time talking to secretaries and I would never get anywhere if I continued with that sort of behavior. But it's all quite superficial. I never felt that I was in the wrong body. I didn't have to change gender to be me. I didn't have to struggle to succeed in an education system which was designed for people like me. It wasn't hard for me to adapt to being an excellent sheep. Except it was, and I'm only now beginning to realize the damage that I have done to myself by being such an excellent sheep. I shut down the woman who cries in meetings. I shut down the little girl who wanted to be a dancer. Thank you, Elizabeth, for opening it up again. I shut down the little girl that wanted to write novels like Charles Dickens. I was such an excellent sheep, but I'm not going to be an excellent sheep anymore. At 65, I'm on my way back. And for that breakthrough, I'm really, really grateful to the outsiders that I've met in the last few years. It began, I think, when I was still living in Dublin and I started to work with a charity called Sophie Housing. Sophie Housing provides housing for long-term homeless people. And I just used to go in there and do a bit of yoga with them and have a chat with them. And I realized that every single one of them that I met was just like me. I met a woman who'd had a job in a bank. Her husband had lost his job, had started drinking. They couldn't pay the mortgage. She went from a job in a bank to sleeping on the streets in 6 months. I began to teach yoga a bit in the women's prison in Dublin. And I realized that, I've broken the law. Okay, don't tell them. I have broken the law, but I have never finished up in jail because I'm really good at talking my way out of shit. But if you're not good at handling the system, you can finish up behind bars for no really good reason. And a lot of those women were in there because they couldn't pay their bills. And so they had started stealing stuff. I did a project for Procter & Gamble, which was actually on skin whitening products, and that opened my eyes a bit as well. I got to play with people who have very different ways of expressing themselves. I got to play in a play that I did in Dublin with a dyslexic woman called Yvonne O'Reilly, who's possibly the most challenging person I've ever had to deal with, but she taught me a hell of a lot. You look like you know Yvonne, look on your face. She's wonderful, she taught me so much. And I met some of the people on this stage through Teenage Cancer Trust. It was so funny. I was supposed to go in there and help them to regain their confidence and become better speakers. And I finished up becoming so much better at being myself, just from having met them. So eternally grateful. I met Sophie Bess. Is she still here? She's still lurking. Oh, she had to leave. So I met Sophie, and we mentioned her before. She's the one who creates plays with refugees. And I thought I was going along to help Sophie out and help with a good cause, but what I finished up with was a whole new understanding of what being a refugee is all about. And I got to listen to some of those young people in East London who were on the edges of knife crime, and who told me that nobody represents them. When I asked them who their MP was, they said, "Why should I find out who my MP was? They don't care about me." "Well, who's your GP?" "I don't know their name. They don't care about me." So with all this, I realized that the people I was meeting could kickstart my next learning journey. And I decided that at the age of 65, that I am not going to retire. I am going to reboot. I'm going to start sharing the learning, and this is, I hope, just the first of many. Today we've had people aged 16 to 26 on the stage. We've had the Young People's Day. Who knows what we will have next? But this is not going to be the end. This is just the beginning. And I want to come at this not from a patronizing, "Oh, there, dear, I'll help you" place. I want to come at this from a very respectful place. This is really about what we've learned from them today. This is not about, okay, yes, do give to the charities, please, but that's not what it's about. It's about really listening and really learning and really challenging this system we have of intellectual colonialism, that only if you can operate in the school system and you've reached a certain age will anyone listen to you. Let's get rid of that right now. So as we move forward with turning the tables, we're not about creating a flock of excellent sheep. We are about creating teams of people who are not programmed to think the same, but rewarded with a listening ear when they think and speak differently. We will have teams of outsiders who will nonetheless belong. And a little shout out to Lucy Taylor here, who said some brilliant things about my original paper on diversion and diversion? Yes, inclusion and diversity. Inclusion is such a hierarchical word. It suggests that I'm up here, darlings, and if you're very good, I will let you come up here with me. Well, I don't want that. I want belonging. I want everyone to belong. I want the person sitting quietly in the corner that Nakib mentioned to feel that they belong, not because they've jumped over all the hurdles, but because we have accepted them. So we're going to replace inclusion with belonging, and we're going to replace diversity with individuality. We are no longer going to throw BAME into one tick box, but we are going to really look at the individual and see what they have to offer. And in closing, my gratitude is to you guys. We have had so many laughs over the last 3 months. And we've had, well, I've had a good few tears. I don't know about you. So I'd like you all to get to your feet and take a round of applause from this lot here, because you have been amazing. Up you go. Stand up.